Alright, here we go. Let's talk about unit circle. I gave you this unit circle in class today. On my unit circle in the blue, what I've done is I've labeled the y-axis and the x-axis, and then I've also put these points that I've highlighted in yellow here, because what the unit circle basically is we've taken a circle that has a radius of 1 unit, and what that means is from the center out to any of the edges of the circle here, it has a radius of 1. We've taken a circle with a radius of 1 unit and we've put it onto the xy axis. So I've listed my xy axis here in the blue, like I said, and then we put the circle on that. Now the center of the circle is at the origin. Okay. Now what we talked about in class today was angles that are in standard position. And remember, for an angle to be in standard position, its vertex is at the origin, and then its initial side is on the positive x-axis where my pencil is there. Now, all of these lines that are drawn on your paper here in the circle, these are lines that form angles. They are actually the terminal side of an angle. So, for example, right here with this first one, if I put, this is my initial side, this is my terminal side, what happens here, an angle is formed in standard position by that. Now, this happens to be a 30-degree angle that is formed here, and this angle, when we form it, the terminal side of this angle actually hits the circle somewhere out here, which gives us a coordinate. And since we are on the xy axis, all of these points that I have highlighted, those are coordinates. So they have an x coordinate and a y coordinate. We'll talk about that in class tomorrow. So all I want to do now is I just want to label the degrees on here so that you'll have your unit circle partially filled in before we get to class tomorrow. So here, that would be a 30-degree angle in standard position. So what I'm going to do is, in the first box here, I'm going to label this as, or my first circle, I'm going to label that as 30 degrees. Now, I guess I should have started right here from the very beginning. We're starting at 0 degrees, okay, and working our way up from there. Now, our next angle here is formed by this line in the middle. And so, if I take and put an angle there, okay, again, here's the initial side, here's the terminal side, we have another angle that is formed in standard position, and that angle actually turns out to be a 45-degree angle. So we're going to put a 45 in there. And then just moving on around to my third spot now, again, here's the initial side, here's the terminal side, so I have an angle that is in standard position formed here, and that is a 60-degree angle. So here in the first quadrant you can see I started at 0, and now I have a 30-degree, a 45-degree, and a 60-degree angle formed. And again, those are angles that are formed by, and those are angles that are in a standard position. And this terminal side does intersect the circle at a point out here. And again, we'll label that point tomorrow in class. Now, we've already done this one. We did it today in class. That is a 90-degree angle. So we have 0, 30, 45, 60, 90. And now if you kind of look at this and look at the pattern that's developing, notice that each of these angles only have a difference of 15. But when I'm going from an axis up to an angle, I have a difference of 30. So like 0 to 30, and then I went by 15s. Then here, when I jump to this axis, I have a difference of 30. So here I'm jumping from 90 degrees over to here, and this is at an axis, so I'm going to make a change of 30 degrees here. So that's going to be 120. And now I'm going to go by 15s. So 135, 150, and now my next point jumps to an axis. So that means I'm going to jump 30 degrees. And we know that one is 180. And now just continuing around the circle, again I'm going from an axis, so it's going to be a 30-degree jump. So that's going to put me at 210. And then now at each of these I'm just going 15 degrees. So that's going to put me at 225. And then from 225 we go to 240. And then when we get to the bottom here, we're at 270. And again, I made a jump to an axis, so that's 30 degrees. So here again, from an axis here, that's a 30-degree jump there. So 300, And now I'm only 15 degrees for each of these in here, so 315, 330. And then when I get all the way back to the start, I've gone a complete 360 degrees. So there's your unit circle degrees filled in. What we'll do in class tomorrow is we'll talk about how these degrees relate to each of these points that are on the circle, and I'll show you how to find those. See you guys in class tomorrow.